Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for the Inner Child Workshop. Hope everyone is doing well. Like last time, I'm going live on Instagram and on my YouTube channel at the same time. So I've got two different cameras set up, streaming on Instagram and on YouTube. Hope everyone's doing well. So the format is the same as all my other workshops. I'm going to be speaking about the inner child, what the inner child is, how it shows itself in our life, and how we can heal it. And then at the very end, I will take some questions. So I'll do questions at the end. If you have any questions that come up during the workshop, just pop them. If the bottom right-hand corner of the screen should be a speech bubble with a question mark in. If you pop the questions in there, I'll see them at the very end. And on YouTube, for those who are streaming on there, just leave a comment in the comment section. And YouTube is a new thing for me on live, so I don't have as many tuning in on YouTube as I do here. So it's more easier for me to keep up with the comments on the YouTube side. But yes, hope everyone is doing well. And with that, we will begin. So I've done a workshop on the inner child once before, and I do talk about it a lot on my posts because it's a very important it's a very important thing to talk about when we want to do healing, because the inner child literally affects everything. So we're going to just quickly talk about the subconscious mind. Again, that is something that I speak about a lot, and for good reason, because when we are born in a world where we take on programming and learned behavior from the immediate caregivers around us and the environment around us. Depending on what your upbringing is and what you are exposed to, will influence what behaviors you learn and what programs you take on. That's pretty obvious and pretty understandable. But what we don't realize is that for the first 7 years of our life, we are in what's called the theta brainwave state, which is a brainwave state of hypnosis. And during that time, we don't have any logical or analytical filters that we use to discern and determine things and filter things out. We don't have anything. We are literally an open, where we are like downloading everything that's around us all the time. And this forms the blueprint of what our core belief system will be. And the subconscious mind remembers all experiences. It remembers all emotional events that, in fact, it's more easy to remember anything that has an emotional charge. That's much easily stored in the brain, which is one reason why anything that you've experienced that was very emotional in a negative sense or also in a positive sense, you can remember, because there was an emotional feeling associated with that. It's much easier for that to be remembered. But we take on these programs around us, and this does form the blueprint of what our core belief system will be. And also within that is the inner child. So what the inner child is, it's that part of us that still maintains that innocence, and that you can have the inner child not just for the traumas, but also for the positive things as well. You can have the part of you that's not grown up, that part of you inside that feels like a child again when you are laughing or you're having fun. You feel like a child doing things that you might have done when you were younger. Those are the good parts. The problems and the things that we find that are challenging are those parts that it remembers that have been traumatic. For the same reasons as I said before, in the 7 years, we can learn a behavior from immediate caregivers around us. We can have experiences done to us. Certain things could be said, certain actions could be taken, or certain neglect. Or even if we just observe things, because we also take on our programming through learned behavior. So it's not necessarily anything that's happened directly to us or anything that we have done, but just by observing our parents, how they act in certain situations, taking on their behaviors and their energy, is also possible at this stage in imprinting on us and building up our core belief system. Now, when we have certain experiences, we're going to talk about the negative experiences more with the inner child, because those are the bits that we would have the issues with. That part of us will remember the emotional pain and the trauma. For example, Let's say you have an issue with not feeling good enough. Let's say you were born into a family and you had brothers or sisters. Let's say you were the middle child. So let's say you were kind of neglected. You wasn't the baby, but you also wasn't the first child. You was the middle child. This is something I've seen come up when working with clients. This comes up quite a lot. They almost feel like they are the forgotten child. Or you can get some children who are good and they have a sibling who's always naughty and getting all the attention, and it's almost like they've been neglected and forgotten about. And from behaviors from their parents, for example, or let's just say if their parents had their own fears and insecurities and never filled you with confidence as a child, who kept giving you messages and impressions that you are not good enough, that you are worthless, and that you're not lovable. So it's very common for a lot of people to not feel that they got the love and affection that they wanted when they were younger. They can grow up with a belief that there's something wrong with them. They can grow up with a belief that they are not good enough. They can grow up with a belief that they are unworthy and they're not attractive. That then can create an insecurity within them that whenever someone around them does seem to show affection to them, that they are afraid of losing it. And this can happen very commonly in relationships. This can cause fears of being left and abandoned by a partner, fears of being cheated on, feelings of jealousy, almost like going paranoid, and all sorts of things. Now, this is just an example. So the inner child basically is the part of us that remembers all the experiences that we've had that's had an emotional charge. And it's the part of us that hasn't been able to heal those wounds. We have a part of us that is still like that young child inside. And if we have not registered and acknowledged that inner child and the crying out for help that it's still asking for, then we are still going to carry on with these I don't want to say self-destructive, in some ways self-destructive or sabotaging behaviors. Because with our core beliefs, subconsciously, we can have beliefs and habits within us, within our mental frame, that either take us towards life or fight against it. Now, the subconscious mind is so many times more powerful than your conscious mind, and it controls 95% of our behavior is ruled by the conscious mind and ruled by what the core beliefs that we have. So only 5% of your daily life and your personality is in the conscious mind. And the subconscious mind not only rules 95% of our behavior, it's also much more powerful. So it's a double whammy, really, because let's say you feel that you are motivated to lose weight, or you're motivated to go to the gym, you're motivated to give up smoking, you're motivated to change a habit of some sort. And then after a while, you feel that it's been put off, or you're just not doing it, or you're procrastinating, or things seem to keep happening, or you've got some sort of resistance there. Now, that would be because subconsciously, there are some beliefs wired in your brain that will be linked to some experiences that you had when you were younger, or if they weren't when you were younger and when you were as an adult, it would have to have been an emotionally charged experience. Basically, it will be linked to beliefs that give you a reason to not want to change. The only thing that stops us from changing is ourselves, because we can put up resistance, which is always going to be linked to fear of some sort. Resistance equals fear, but it can show itself in many ways. So this is the reason why, if you do so much yoga, meditation, affirmations, eat healthily, all these really wonderful things that do have tremendous benefits and will help with all of this, but sometimes no matter what you try, you might feel that you're just repeating the same patterns, you're going over the same ground, or you may find that you are manifesting the same type of relationships time and time again. This will be because you still have the same beliefs and patterning subconsciously and in your energy field. And these will be linked back to the inner child and what we are holding on in our subconscious mind. Because the inner child has so much influence over our behavior. The inner child is linked in with the subconscious. That inner part of us, that is the most powerful. So the inner child, from its pain, it can cause us to act out in certain ways very abruptly. It can also cause us to have destructive relationships, and it can cause us to form addictions. Very commonly, a real powerful reason why a lot of people get addicted to substances is to neutralize trauma. Addiction is an anxiety is a what's the term? Tranquilizer for anxiety. It will all be linked to a lot of these inner child issues. So I hope I've given an idea of what the inner child is and sort of how it affects us. Now, it's very important when we want to do any form of healing. Now, before I go into this, those who would be interested in the inner child workshop would be familiar with what the inner child is, and those who may not know what the inner child is who want to do some healing, and who does want to connect with themselves and work on themselves. No matter what you do, if you're going to do this kind of conscious work, doing the inner work, you are going to find, if you want to have true empowerment, you do need to acknowledge the pain that you are carrying with you. Now, this isn't to scare anyone, and this isn't to make it seem like it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's important to acknowledge, because we have spent our whole lifetime ignoring the inner child that we have and ignoring the pain that we have. You see, a lot of us in the West, we've built up in a society where if something is bothering us, we stifle it back down and we resist it and push it back down, and we don't acknowledge it and let it go. So for things like grief and fear and any kind of emotional pain, everything like that will have its own natural way of fizzling out. It will have it's very limited in how long it will actually go on for, until it will start to lose its momentum, if we are able to just observe it and just let it all go. The problem is that we keep pushing it back down, resisting it, and that's how it goes on and on and on, and gets more complicated, more complex. Because if you have a lot of emotional wounds and pains and memories running around you and giving you every other reason for you to fear other things, if you don't acknowledge it and keep building it up, it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. And by the time that you do want to start doing the releasing and the inner work, you'll have a lot more to release than what you would if you started earlier. So it's really important to do the inner work. Because we need to see where the pain is, what's caused it, and then how to release it. And one of the ways is connecting with the inner child. So a lot of you may already be familiar with what the issues are that you want to work on is, because you may have some issues that have become a chronic problem. You may have a lot of patterning and things that you've observed that you want to change but don't know how to. You might be familiar with certain memories from your childhood or certain experiences that you were still holding on to. Or some of you might not have any clue, but you just know that you're not happy and some things aren't working in your life. So, with the inner child, it's very important to acknowledge it. So there are some things that we can do to help loosen up the resistance and connect to the inner child. It will respond instantly. It will respond instantly to you. The problem is we can have some resistance to doing it. So the inner child, as soon as you speak to it, it will respond. Then remember, the inner child is that part of you. The number one relationship that benefits us that we have in life is the relationship with ourselves. We keep looking for reliance on other people around us to make us feel whole and complete. The number one thing that we could really benefit from is establishing the connection with our truest self first. And establishing our connection with our truest self also means acknowledging the pain that our inner child is carrying, because this tells us where we need to heal. So you may have some resistance first of all, but your inner child will respond to these three things. Acknowledging its presence. So if you go around pretending that you're okay, but you're not okay, you're ignoring your inner child. You're ignoring that part of you that needs to heal. So you can do a meditation where you can visualize speaking to your inner child. You can say affirmations. You can set intentions and give yourself a lot of nurturing and self-love. The inner child will respond to self-love. As soon as you start loving yourself, as soon as you start acknowledging your inner child's existence and saying to your inner child that I am here for you. Like, for example, if you were speaking to yourself, you can say, I'm here for you, little Danny. I love you, little Danny. I am always here for you. I am listening. Because you are acknowledging it. You are telling yourself essentially that you are here for yourself and that you are going to be the primary caregiver. Now that gives a certain sense of empowerment. Even if it doesn't seem like it when you first hear it, it does when you actually do it. You are being there for your inner child. There will be some parts of you as a child that may not think that it had what it needed. You can be that caregiver for that. So acknowledging it, telling it that you love it and you are there for it. Because if you have the issue of feeling abandoned and the insecurity of not feeling good enough, it might be because you felt that you are not good enough and that you was not given that love and support that you needed. If you begin to love and support yourself and give yourself that love, then you will do tremendous healing. And then you will be able to realize that the reason why you didn't get the love from your primary caregivers that you felt you needed is nothing to do with you. It's to do with them. You see, we can't fully love someone in a certain way unless we love ourselves. Now, we can love others, but if we think of we want to help people and we need to provide, the expression, if you can't empty a cup that's not full. You need to make sure that you are loving yourself first. Miraculous things happen when we learn to love ourselves. Now, it's very easy to say that. To do it can be very challenging, and it's something that I am still working on myself. I've had to do a lot of inner work on myself, and I'm still doing it because we're always peeling back and revealing layers after layers. But the inner child will respond to self-love, self-awareness, acknowledging it and listening to it, and forgiveness. So forgiveness of those who we think has wronged us, but also forgiving ourselves, because the inner child is also the one that receives all the criticism. Because we also have an inner critic. As well as an inner child, we have an inner critic. Have you ever caught yourself, if you ever stop to analyze your self-talk, there's exercises that you can do. Now, in my coaching programs, this is one of the first exercises that I do with clients. When a client wants to work with me and wants to transform, before we get into this, we need to look and see what the current belief system is, to see what's not working and what is working, or to see what's stopping them from achieving their goals in the first place, to see where the issues are, what needs to be changed. Then we need to look and see what the self-talk is, because remember, every thought and every feeling is energy, and it's what creates our reality. So if we have a lot of negative self-talk about how we are not good enough and how we are not going to achieve this or that, not only is our inner child absorbing that, but we are believing that and affirming that as our reality. So essentially speaking, we are running on programs that we've had from when we were younger that are just manifesting over and over again. So we have to bring awareness to this. So as well as healing the inner child by loving and forgiving and giving it the awareness that it wants, we also have to look and see what is our self-talk like. We are our own inner critics. What are we saying to ourselves? Are we constantly telling ourselves, oh, you're no good, you'll never achieve this, look at you, you're worthless, or you're not good enough? Have you ever stopped to think about what your self-talk is? Now, when you are trying to apply your affirmations, if you keep saying, I love and accept myself, or I am healthy and well, I am worthy, I am good enough, and you might say it 2 or 3 times, but then what's the rest of your self-talk like? You may find that a lot of your self-talk is much more damaging, and so it cancels out all your affirmations. And this is why it's important to acknowledge the inner child work first, as well as what the subconscious beliefs you have are, because these can possibly prevent your affirmations and your intentions from coming together, because we have a belief in our subconscious mind that's much more powerful than a conscious thought of, I love and accept myself. So we will find that we do need to do a lot of forgiving of ourselves. So when working with our inner child, yes, we will find self-love, and just acknowledging your inner child will be tremendous, a tremendous benefit, because saying to your inner child, I'm here for you, I love you, and I accept you, and I will always be here for you, is a wonderful relief to that part of you, because you are now acknowledging that part of you that doesn't feel good. You are acknowledging that part of you that has pushed all those emotions down for potentially years and years, most of your lifetime. You are now beginning to open up to what's there. Then you will find that forgiveness will also need to be done to the other person who may be involved, but that's also where you will find forgiveness of yourself is needed, because within those beliefs you are more than likely going to have not a great view of yourself, because you've taken on the belief that you're not good enough. You've taken on the belief that you are unworthy. You have taken on these fearful beliefs. How do you know you've taken them on? Because of the problems that you're experiencing. That's evidence. The things, the way your life is going and how you're feeling is evidence of what you are believing. The issue is trying to find out what your beliefs are and where they've come from. So the inner child will respond to self-love, awareness that you are acknowledging it, and forgiveness of yourself and of others. Now, some key ways that you can connect to the inner child is through meditation. So you can meditate and visualize yourself as a young child. And I do have a guided inner child meditation that I provide my clients. And when you go through that meditation, it allows you to access that part of yourself, tune into that part of you that is still that inner child, and speak to it and acknowledge it. And the inner child, when you do that, when you invite the inner child to the surface of your mind, you will begin to have communication from your inner child. Now, this isn't any woo-woo stuff. This is very real, because you are going to be accessing that part that's in your subconscious mind and your intuition. So the inner child can communicate to you through thought forms. It can communicate through imagery, through feelings, through emotions, and through memories. There's many different ways it can speak to you if you allow it the time and space to communicate. And it will tell you the things that you want, that it needs to be healed. And after going through that process of acknowledging it and giving yourself a lot of self-love, that will begin to heal. But the key things, it isn't actually, it can be a complex thing. It's not a rush, do it straight away thing, because it can be very various for each individual. It's mostly a process of layers. But to get to the most profound way and the most productive way to heal is to focus on loving yourself and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness. Even though you may have heard it spoken of a lot of the time, love and forgiveness are the key elements, the key things that will bring healing about the quickest. Because you could potentially forgive and let go of something in one moment and begin to each day learn to love yourself more and more. And each time you love yourself more and more, your inner child begins to heal. It begins to settle down, and what you'll be left with is the positive parts that it has remembered. And then you step into your own power. The problems can come when we have fear and resistance, and we stop ourselves from our own healing. And resistance can come in many different ways. An example could be someone could tune into the workshop right now, listen to what I'm saying, and without realizing it, come out straight away because they don't want to hear it. But it could be the very thing that they need to hear. They may not know it, or they may know it, but they don't want to hear it, so they come off of it. And that's very common. So when doing the inner child healing, it's important to acknowledge it, as I've said, start practicing self-love, Listen to your inner child to let you know what are the things that are still bothering it. And begin to forgive yourself and for all those involved. Now, it's a process. You might not be able to do it straight away, but it is a process. And if you find yourself resisting that process, then you'll just need to ask yourself, why is that? If you haven't, I'll give this little tip. If you are having problems with something and something doesn't seem to be working out, within yourself, and you feel that you can't make any headway or you're resisting something, just always ask yourself, why is that? And see if you can come up with a sensible answer. And if you've got an answer, ask again, why is that? Why is that? Always ask, why is that? If you want to know how to get to a root cause of a problem within yourself, always ask yourself, why is that? And you can find that the original problem isn't the root cause. And you will find that it will always come down to something. If this is a problem, it will always come down to a fearful-based issue and a link to not being good enough. Because remember, every emotion, every feeling can only come from one of two places: fear or love. Certain emotions that we would coin as negative are going to stem from fear. Even anger. Anger is not born of itself. It's linked to a fear. Sadness linked to a fear. Anxiety is obviously fear in itself. Jealousy, I spoke earlier about, it's very common I see in relationships. A lot of people have issues with jealousy and insecurity because they themselves don't feel good enough or worthy. They think that they're not good enough and there's a risk that their partner may reject them. Or they might be cheated on because they're not good looking enough, or they're just not worthy. And of course, this can be in any kind of relationship as well. It can be very common even in a workplace. But it's all going to be coming from the same place. It's all going to be coming from a state of fear. And at the same time, all the good feelings and all the good emotions will come from a place of love. So with the inner child, we want to acknowledge that there is a part of us that has all the memories of all the things that have happened to us when we were younger that were very traumatizing for us. As well as acknowledging the good things, and the inner child will remember the good things as well, but those aren't the problem. It only becomes a problem when we have issues that are affecting us in what we would call a negative way. And we then begin to take on habits and behaviors that we might not even know why. And it's all linked to trying to cover up this fear. And because we live in a world of energy, which is proven in quantum physics, what we project out as energy and vibration is what comes back to us as experience. We then run the risk of manifesting the same scenarios again and again. Might be with different people, it might be with different circumstances, but the same theme will apply. Have any of you had that experience where, let's say you've had a relationship with your parent, and then you can recognize certain traits with that relationship with your parent, with your partners or with your friends or your boss? And even if you have a link with a different person, the same thing happens again and again. You find yourself in the same situation. I've worked with clients who have been with multiple partners, each one been very abusive, and it stays the same. In fact, the longer it goes on for, it gets progressively worse. And it's then that they realize, oh, wait a moment. This is happening again and again. Is there something in me that I am attracting? Am I attracting the same people to me? Am I attracting the same circumstances? And another thing is, because the inner child is like a child, and as children, we do want attention. It's a natural thing. When we are children, we do want the attention and want the love that we feel we need. And if we don't feel that we get that, we do things like attention seeking. Part of that, and part of the resistance that we can have to not want to change, is because we become so identified with our problems. When we become identified with the problems, we identify ourselves as the person that has this wrong with them, or has that wrong with them, or has had this experience or that experience. All the experiences could be valid, and those are the things that you have gone through, and it would have been challenging. But to change It really does need to come down to how we shift our perspective and our identity. Because if we keep identifying ourselves associated with particular problems, then we are not shifting outside of that mindset. If you was looking through a certain set of binoculars, for example, the binoculars of I'm not good enough, through those lenses, you will keep seeing every reason to prove to you that you are not good enough. And if your inner child has the memories and the emotions and the feeling of abandonment that it felt it was given by your parents or by children at school or the way teachers were with you or any other caregivers or anything in your environment that you would have observed, if you are continuously looking through that lens that I'm not good enough, then that's what you're going to see. It's very simple when you realize it. It will keep happening that way, tunnel vision. If you can put those binoculars down, be willing to do that and pick up another set of binoculars that says, I am good enough. Just do the same thing with a different meaning, I am good enough. You will then see everything through the eyes that proves that you are good enough. And you will continuously look for and will naturally see every reason why you are good enough. But if you identify yourself continuously as this person with problems, this happens, that happens, it's good to acknowledge the issues and observe them, because we are being present to what's going on, because we don't want to stifle everything down, because that's what we're trying to stop doing with the whole inner child stuff. We're not wanting to push the emotions back down like a pressure cooker and then wait for things to get worse before we can actually make a change. We want to try and do it before it builds up too much so it's easier. But we want to be aware of them but not identify. So I've mentioned this little technique as well in other workshops, where to help take the edge off of what you may be feeling is to adopt the observer effect. And now the observer effect is a very simple process of just acknowledging everything that you might be experiencing or feeling. And what you can say to yourself is, let's say you are having a feeling of anxiety or fear. Let's say you are in a relationship and your partner's triggered you, and it's triggered that part of you that doesn't feel good enough. And you are aware of it. Now, what you would usually do is you would react out of that feeling of insecurity, a knee-jerk reaction, which may start an argument with your partner, which may cause strain on the relationship, may eventually make the relationship split up or break up, or you might go and have a few drinks or do whatever you do to try and block out that feeling. A really helpful tip is to acknowledge that feeling of anxiety for just what it is. So when you feel that anxiety, you can say to yourself, I am aware of this anxiety. I'm aware that I have been triggered. And just observe it. Now, it may take some practice, especially if you have been very reactive in the past and you do act on these feelings, but just saying, I'm aware of this insecurity. I'm aware of this anxiety. Now, having the first benefit is you're having awareness of it. You're not pushing it back down. The second thing is that you are acknowledging that you are observing the feeling. You are literally saying the words, I am aware of this. You are aware of something. So basically you are saying you're aware of something that isn't you because you are observing it. So that means you are no longer identifying with it as you. Because a lot of the problems that we experience is because we become so identified with what the issues are. We identify with a particular problem, think that's part of us, and we take things very personally. But if we can acknowledge something as an observer, we realize it's not actually anything that's happening to us. So we are not stifling anything back down to add to the pressure and to add to something that we need to clear later on. We are acknowledging something coming up as it is, to let it fizzle out by itself. This is the same concept in meditation when thoughts come to you. When you're trying to meditate and you're trying to remain still, when a thought comes up, the purpose of that is to not identify with the thought, is to watch the thoughts, is to let the thoughts go, just like passing clouds in front of a blue sky. You are the blue sky. The clouds are the thoughts and they're passing over. You don't identify with them. The same with this. You observe something and realize that you are not it. Now, at the very minimum, you're not going to be adding, the minimum benefit of doing this is that you're not going to be adding more problems to pressure back down. The other benefit, if you can really grasp this, is that you will disidentify with that problem and realize, oh, I'm anxious again. I'm aware of this anxiety. I'm aware of the reason why I'm anxious. Okay, let's just observe it. And it will take the edge off. Even if you have to keep practicing it several times, it will do it. It has to. Because you are not making a bigger deal out of it. And you're beginning to take your identity away from it. And what happens, this is exactly the same benefit that a lot of people feel when they practice regular meditation, is that when they meditate, they begin to take on what's known as the observer effect, where they realize that they are not their thoughts. The same will be, you realize you are not your problems. You are that awareness behind it. You are the observer of this. You then step into presence. Because if the inner child is linked with our subconscious mind, and if our subconscious mind has all the memories of anything we've ever experienced, even if we consciously don't remember, we do remember subconsciously. And if it has all the emotions and it controls 95% of our behavior, and we're on autopilot a lot of the time, what's one of the key things that we can do to help break those patterns is to be as present as possible. We have 5% of conscious control over our personality and our behaviors. So the key is to become as conscious in that 5% as possible. If you can become conscious and as present as possible, you step out of that subconscious program. Very similar if you ever do things like this, leads on to habit being another way that you can heal, change subconscious beliefs and connect with the inner child. The more times you do it, the easier it will be, because habit is another way that you can learn a new belief. Repetition is another way that you can form a new habit and a new belief. Because eventually your body begins to learn how to do certain things. Key thing is learning how to drive. Once you know how to drive, you'll be driving along. How common is it for a lot of people to get to their destination and then suddenly look back and think, oh, I don't remember the trip, because you were so busy thinking of something else. Your body had taken over. It was on autopilot. So too is when we take on certain beliefs and personality traits. If we keep doing the same routines day after day, we can have the same repeating thoughts. The inner child can be trying to communicate over so many different times, but we keep doing the same thing. We are running on programs, but if we can foster as much energy into our conscious mind, we have choice. We can then create and we claim our power back. So that's the purpose of that. So the inner child, the inner critic, and our subconscious beliefs are all intrinsically linked. I think that's the right word, and I think I said it correctly. They're all linked. And there is going to be some of the key things that you will find in the beginning of your healing journey. And this is why I talk a lot about these concepts and why I really focus. If someone asks me, how do I help? What programs do I offer? What coaching do I provide on a one-to-one basis? What do I specialize in? It will be this, because I have seen so many people do wonderful spiritual work, do a lot of spiritual activities, but still struggle. And it's down to these root fears, this subconscious patterning. This is where we really need to make the changes and put our time in. And one reason why it's very difficult is because a lot of us don't know about it. We're not aware of this part of ourselves. And also we have a lot of resistance and a lot of fear to change. Fear of change is actually worth another workshop in itself, because that's very, very vast, but it has been touched upon in this workshop anyway. But we are our own self-sabotagers because we're afraid. So I hope that this has given some insight again into the inner child and how it links with our core belief system and how the subconscious beliefs are formed. It's very important to acknowledge that. It takes a great deal of courage to acknowledge some of the pains that we've had in the past, but it's very rewarding, because this is where the real healing can happen. And it's a very neglected place because a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that, because if they've got a lot of pain built up, they're in the habit of avoidance, and we don't want to avoid. We want to acknowledge. As soon as we can acknowledge, it can be released. It's a process. So I hope that's been able to provide some insight. If anyone is interested in working with me on a one-to-one basis, or would like to explore how they can heal their inner child or begin to transform themselves by letting go of limiting habits and beliefs that they've experienced from their childhood to become aligned with who they really are, I do offer some coaching programs. You can work with me in a 2 or 3 week session, or you can work with me for a whole 12-week session. I do have some special offers on my programs at the moment, so if this is something you are interested in, you can drop me an email or send me a DM on Instagram. And I also offer a free 20-minute discovery call where you could, if you are interested in what I offer, we can have a 20-minute call completely free, where you let me know the issues that you would like to work on. I can let you know what I could offer to help. And if you feel it resonates and it's the right thing for you, then we can go ahead. You can book that free 20-minute call by clicking the link in my Instagram bio. It will take you to my calendar page where you can select a time and a date that's free for both of us, and it'll put it both in our diaries. Wonderful of works of technology. And a Zoom call will be set up for us. So that's completely free to see if this is something that you would like to pursue and work on any further. But in the meantime, I hope that's been very helpful. If there is any questions that anyone has, both on the YouTube side and Instagram side, about the inner child or about the workshop, I'm going to be asking for questions related to what we're speaking about today. I won't be answering any questions that won't have the relevance for the Inner Child Workshop, because this isn't a general Q&A. We want to keep it relevant for those who are listening. It's about the inner child. Any other questions that you may have, they will be for regular Q&A sessions. I didn't do any workshops last week because of my schedule, but each week I will be doing 3 workshops on Instagram and YouTube. 2 of them will be workshops on a particular topic, and there will be 1 Q&A session a week. So any questions you have can be for that, and of course you can drop me a DM as well anyway. So if you have any questions about the inner child, or the coaching programs and how we work with the inner child, or about the subconscious beliefs that we spoke about, just let me know. I have a question that has been popped through on Instagram on my questions tab. Just gonna have a quick sip of water. So this is relevant because it's all part of the healing. Why do you think people don't want to change anymore? Well, I've kind of answered that in the workshop, really. It's fear of change. Fear of change, for one, is as I said, I think I'll do a separate talk on the fear of change because that's so vast. But yes, we don't like change, and it's more to the point we don't like the unknown. Because even though we may have certain beliefs and certain problems, and it causes us problems, we have certain problems that causes us problems, at least part of us will think, at least it's familiar. You know your way around it. If it's a problem that you've had for a long time and you've formed an identity with it, you've also found a way to live with it, or at least you know what to expect. Somehow a problem seems less scary than the unknown. Now, the unknown can also provide positive things, but we have that fear of stepping out of that comfort zone. It's a very common thing. So it will be fear. It won't be a case that people don't want to change. Part of them would want to change, but there would be fear, or there would also be the underlying beliefs that we're speaking about that would be controlling their behavior. If, for example, someone wants to go and would love to do acting or be a singer, or do something where they feel they'll be judged on their performance and they don't have the confidence, they think they won't be good enough. And if they don't feel good enough, then they're much less likely to go out and do what they want to do, because they've got those inner core beliefs that are telling them they're not worthy and they're not good enough. So it will all be down to fear and what their programming is. Is there any way we can rewatch this live either on Instagram or on YouTube? Yes, this will be re-uploaded onto YouTube. I have problems uploading these replays sometimes to my Instagram. Not all of them get uploaded for some reason. Sometimes they get lost and they don't go out to that many accounts on the replay. So the live stream workshops will be available on YouTube. A great benefit about streaming on YouTube as well is that YouTube will automatically upload the replay. So there shouldn't be a problem with that. So the workshop replays will be on the YouTube rather than Instagram from now on, because they're much easier to access. And also for those on the Instagram side, if you don't know already, I do have a YouTube channel which I'm building up and creating a lot more video content. So if you would like to see more of that content and like the stuff that I do, I really would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind checking out my YouTube channel and possibly subscribe and following me over there. When I try and promote my YouTube stuff on Instagram, unfortunately the platform doesn't spread out to that many accounts, so not many people know, but the amount of messages that I get asking me to do more on YouTube and asking me to do more videos, I'm going to be doing that and have been doing that, but not many people know. So you can check me out at Danny Conscious Living on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind subscribing over there, I'm already uploading 2 to 3 YouTube shorts per day, and I will be uploading 2 to 3 new videos each week. And the replays of the workshops will now be over there as well. So let's have a look, see if there is any more comments. I see we have 2 viewers on YouTube. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in. Do either of you have any questions, or anyone who's tuned in on YouTube have any questions as well? I can't see any questions that have come through on the YouTube side yet, but if you do have any, please don't be afraid to ask. Sierra, is it Sierra 915? God sent this message to me today. I'm so very thankful God watching this live. Please let me know where I can rewatch later. Oh, you're most welcome. And I just answered your question about the replay as well. Yes, it will be on my YouTube channel. You'll have to forgive my thumbnails on YouTube. YouTube is something that I'm learning a lot more about, and apparently you need to have good thumbnails on your videos to get people to click on them. And when you do a live, the camera asks you to do a thumbnail for the video, and the camera was the wrong way around. So I've got a very, very not flattering picture that is probably going to be on the thumbnail for this live replay. So I'm going to find a way to change that. So if there's any weird thumbnails, you'll have to forgive that for the moment. Love Light 60 forever. Hello, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Stepping out on a new adventure. I'm just going to scroll out to see if there's any more comments. Yes, thank you, and God bless you. The _hi_priest_slime. You have problems, but you are not the problem. Absolutely. By the way, I've noticed there's been some badges that have been purchased in this live, and I want to say thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Does it tell me who has purchased them? I don't know where it tells me who has purchased them or not. The _hi_priest_slime, there is a heart badge next to your name. If you are one of the ones that purchased the badge, thank you so much. That's really appreciative. I really appreciate that. It really does help out a lot. And to whoever else purchased a badge, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. So I've got a few more minutes, guys, if anyone does have any questions about the inner child. I just subscribed. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, High Priest Slime, to the YouTube. Yes, thank you very much for that. And if anyone does have any suggestions about video topics that you'd like me to create, please do let me know. As well as the workshop replays being uploaded in its fullness on YouTube, I will also be editing the replays for certain questions and certain snippets that will be uploaded in video format. So certain key highlights of a live stream will also be available on YouTube as well. Um, okay. I did see some comments coming in whilst I was speaking. So whilst I'm waiting for any more comments to come in, I'm just going to scroll up now just to see if there's anything that was mentioned that was relevant. A lot of people agreeing with whatever I was saying at these points. Hi, Redette. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for tuning in. So I've scrolled up and it tells me Williams_mummy_2019 brought another badge. Thank you so much. As I've scrolled up, it's let me know who brought the badge. Thank you so much for doing that, and hope you're well, my friend. Lovely that you was able to tune into the live. Thank you so much for the badge. I really do appreciate that. So I'm glad I scrolled up now because I've been able to find out who brought the badge. So thank you. It's Joe Sky. Hello, my friend. I'm going to be doing lots of meditation and prayer for the new moon. There's been so much going on with the moon lately and planetary alignments. There's a lot of stuff going on energy-wise there's lots of stuff going on energy-wise that is making things like healing the inner child and releasing and letting go a very powerful thing to do. The energies at the moment, it's like being in a pressure cooker. A lot of people are finding that issues that they need to address are coming to the surface to be released. And that's one of the reasons, there's so much stuff that's going on at the moment. This is why a lot of people are finding it so difficult and why it's important to speak about these things, because a lot of us, even if we're not consciously going, oh yes, I'm going to connect with my inner child and do healing and inner work today, the energies are going to be in such a way where it's almost going to force you to feel uncomfortable, because don't forget, everything is energy, and we're consciousness, and we're part of the collective consciousness. We're connected to everything else as well. And as the collective consciousness rises, the vibration rises, we have to rise with it. Now, when the higher the emotional state is, the higher the feeling state is, in other words, the more elevated emotions, because remember, feelings, emotions is energy, vibrating energy. Energies that feel good, like love, joy, and compassion, the really high, good energies, have a much higher vibration than fear, jealousy, anger, hatred, guilt, and shame. Much more lower, denser energies. So if the energy environment that we are living in is naturally rising, anything that's lower within us needs to be purged, needs to be gotten rid of. So this is why we've got a lot of invitations at the moment to clear and change. That's one way of putting it. I've got another question that's been popped in down here on the questions tab. Bonolo_Ruckle Fatshi, hope I've said your name correctly. How would one know that they have healed the inner child? Simply by how you feel. Are you bothered by the same things that you was bothered about once before? Have you got fears? Have you got insecurities? Are you feeling a sense of loss? Are you still experiencing the same feelings and thoughts that you had before? If you've done some inner work and you've been able to really heal the inner child, then there will be a sense of liberation. You will notice a difference. It won't just be a case, okay, I've done this work, now what? If you've made a healing, you're going to feel the difference somewhere. So it will be how you feel. It's not a complicated assessment. It would just be, look, okay, how do you feel about a certain area in your life? Is there relief? Is there fulfillment? Have you let something go? And then go from there. And look at the things that has anything changed in your life? Maybe the things that you are manifesting are different. Because a lot of people can also, it is possible to not know where to start. I've done a lot of work with clients who know that they are blocking something and know that they're not happy with something, but they don't know what the problem is or where to begin. So I always say to them, well, what's currently going on in your life that's not working? or where do you keep finding that there are problems? And now that's a good place to start. It might not be the root cause, but it's a good place to start. And it'll be the same if you want to know if you've healed. Well, has anything shifted in your life where things are a lot better than what they used to be? So that's one way of finding out if you've made a change. But with that, everyone, I'm going to call it a day now. I've been on for just under an hour. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in. I can wait just one moment to see if there's any more questions. Doesn't seem to be any questions on the YouTube side. There's no more questions on Instagram. Then we'll close this session. And thank you very much for everyone who has tuned in. I hope this was helpful. This was a requested workshop again to do an inner child one. It's the second one that I've done on the topic. Once again, if you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one basis, or you feel that you would like some coaching on how to let go of any issues that you might have from the past, changing some habits or heal the inner child, I do have some coaching programs available, one for more short term or one for longer term, and I do have a special offer on both of them at the moment. And I do provide a free 20-minute discovery call where we can talk about what the issues are and see if what I'm able to provide will be a suitable fit for you. That can be booked by clicking the link in my Instagram bio. It will take you to my Calendly page and you can select a date and a time to book in a 20-minute call with me. And the replay for this workshop will be uploaded onto my YouTube page. It will be under the live tab, I believe, on my main YouTube account. I will be doing, if anyone's recently just joined the Instagram, on the Instagram side, because I know people are coming and going all the time, I do have a YouTube channel up. It's Danny Conscious Living, same as Instagram. And I'm posting a lot more video content on there. And all of the replays for my workshops will be on YouTube now. I won't be posting any of the replays on Instagram because it doesn't do it properly. It will be on YouTube. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my channel, I'd really appreciate that. It helps to support me whilst I'm making these content for you. And I will post details very soon about the next workshop. If anyone has any requests about what topics you'd like me to do a workshop on, I will certainly consider them and make. I've already got a list of topics that people would like me to do a workshop on already. It will be probably over the week. I will definitely be doing a workshop over the weekend. I'm not sure if I'll be able to come on before then. I might be able to, but I will certainly put an update on my Instagram story and also on my YouTube community tab as well. That's where I put the details on YouTube about this live. I will do that for the others as well. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much to everyone again who bought badges on Instagram. I really do appreciate that support. Thank you so much. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.